Hello and Assalamu alaikum. This is Muhammad Abu Bakr, and I will be presenting to you on Pakistan's foreign policy. First, let me share the screen. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Abu Bakr. This is section from section LB2B, class Political Science, enrollment number 011772020068. Foreign policy of Pakistan. A state's foreign policy or extrinsic policy is its schemes and projects with different countries, whether mutually or through multifaceted policies. A government's foreign policy may be shaped by internal needs, the intentions or activities of other states, or ambitions to further distinct intergovernmental plans. The motivation of foreign policy is to obtain for the state such a standing in the social atmosphere of nations that it has no impediment in assisting its dominion and rectitude to give it a platform in the conceptualization of worldwide tenets complementary to its interests and to expand its leadership beyond its borders and within international convention. In this article, Pakistan's relationship with major countries and the impacts of our foreign policy will be discussed. Table of contents. First, we will discuss the formulation of foreign policy, then we will discuss the history of foreign policy, then we will come on to relationship of Pakistan with the world powers, which include the United States, Russia, United Kingdom, and China. And finally, we will have the conclusion. Coming along to formulation of foreign policy. The synthesis of a foreign policy has three bodies. The first of them is within the administration, which includes the president or prime minister of a country, the foreign minister, the foreign office, which is the executive division in charge of the wording and implementation of foreign policy. It has many branches known as desks, which handle particular nations or set of states. They dispense advice regarding intelligence and data and give specialist judgment on this premise. Apart from foreign policy or foreign office, the armed forces and researchers also create foreign policy to some degree. Coming along to point B. There is the go-between layer consisting primarily of parliaments. They are normally communal figures, therefore they are generally powerless to institute foreign policy, but they keep track of it strictly. Their foremost authority lies in the approval of accords. The US Congress is a well-known outstanding case of this. In 1919, it declined to approve the Treaty of Versailles despite President Woodrow Wilson's inclination in its favor. The external structure takes view of public beliefs and or ideology. If there had not been a vigorous general opinion in support of retributive nuclear test in May 1998, the government would have given in to international coercion. Side by side, the Tashkent, the Tashkent Declaration 1966 displeased and infuriated the masses to such an extent that a development went into place which collapsed the Ayub government. However, there are times when the executive goes against the view held by the people in lieu of public interest or because other features of establishing foreign policy are in concurrence. In the instance of the 1956 Arab-Israel War, Pakistan took a position against the Arabs. Alongside this, the public opinion was in support of Iraq in 1990 Gulf War, but since it was deemed risky by Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif with the support of Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, Pakistan took an anti-Iraq stance. Alongside this, Pakistan does not accept the dominion of Israel in spite of ideological differences. This is not due to being against Zionism, but because Israel is regarded to be occupying Arab lands. Hence, ideology usually goes hand in hand with public opinion, but not undoubtedly. Coming along to history of foreign policy of Pakistan. Pakistan's foreign policy, as described by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, was one of friendliness and righteousness, along with the continuation of moral and tangible help to the persecuted and repressed nations, for example, Indonesia, and to honor the United Nations Charter. The objectives of Pakistan's foreign policy were security and sheer survival. Barely after its creation, Pakistan had to fight a war over Kashmir. India also refused to divulge assets and military arms. Moreover, the Cold War was underway. Whilst during the period of Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Liaquat Ali Khan, Pakistan remained officially neutral over aligning itself with the USA or USSR. However, under Governor General Ghulam Muhammad, Pakistan established soldierly association with the West, joining CENTO and SEATO. Pakistan gave its support to USA in the Cold War, which India did not like. The Indian Prime Minister went back on his promise to hold a plebiscite in Kashmir, and since Russia championed India sincerely for Kashmir, Pakistan has ruled its decision. From the 1960s to 1980s, Pakistan's relations with the People's Republic of China has been a fundamental aspect of Pakistan's foreign policy. Connection with the Muslim world went from bad to worse during the 1956 Suez War. Some advancement in relations was brought about during the 1967 Six-Day War, but the connection Pakistan yearned for remained cagey. Diplomatic ties with recently liberated Central Asian states provided Pakistan a chance to expand its control, but Pakistan's stance on Afghanistan debilitated relations with its most cordial neighbors, China and Iran, and led to a revival of Russian influence in Central Asia. Having been defeated in a war and losing East Pakistan in 1971, Pakistan lost also control of Kargil. When 18 years later Pakistan took back this strategic position, it led to a disaster in which international opinion went against Pakistan. The readjustment of worldview away from UN legislation on Kashmir to cross-border terrorism was the greatest ever foreign policy setback for Pakistan. Following the 9/11 terrorist attack, Pakistan joined the US-led Alliance Against Terrorism. Now I will discuss Pakistan and the United States of America and their relationship. When the USA and Pakistan set up association in 1947, they had different agendas in mind. Pakistan needed the US to help secure itself against India, whereas the US wanted Pakistan's commitment against the communist influence of USSR and China. In the 1950s, Liaquat Ali Khan visited the United States of America. Pakistan signed the Mutual Defense Agreement in 1954. Peshawar Air Station was leased to the US government for surveillance purposes as the Cold War was going on between USA and the USSR. During the 1960s, relationships were at an all-time high. US flew a spy mission to Soviet Union from Pakistan and increased the amount of financial assistance to the country. In 1965, the Indo-Pakistan War broke out, due to which US imposed sanctions on Pakistan, which resulted in the collapse of its economy. During the 1970s, Pakistan helped President Nixon in paying a visit to People's Republic of China, and the USA is thought to have aided Pakistan in the 1971 war against India. Pakistan remained in America's good grace until the start of Jimmy Carter era, when Pakistan, in reaction to the Indian 1974 nuclear explosion, initiated its own defensive program. The US applied pressure on Pakistan to stop the process of nuclear proliferation. In 1979, USSR invaded Afghanistan, due to which Pakistan became a battlefront. American pressure was lifted, and in the 1980s, billions of dollars were poured into Pakistan for defense and training purposes to keep the Soviets at bay. General Ziaul Haq pushed on with the nuclearization program, and in 1990, the Presler Amendment, which was imposed on Pakistan, barred it from receiving defense and budget aid. The Presler Amendment was repealed by the Hawken-Warner Amendment on 17 July 1997. In 1998, Pakistan performed more nuclear tests and applied to India, which led to the US imposing the Glenn Amendment on both countries. Relations further plummeted in 1999 during the Kargil fiasco. Coming along to the next slide. After the 9/11 attacks, Pakistan became an ally for the US and allowed it to use their military bases for launching attacks on Afghan soil. However, later President Musharraf revealed that the country had no alternative since the US threatened to bomb Pakistan into the Stone Age. We shall now look at relations from 2003. US firmly waived a $1 billion loan in a goodwill gesture. In 2004, President George Bush approved Pakistan as a non-NATO ally, thus allowing Pakistan to buy strategic and advanced military equipment. However, since 2004, the US Army has targeted Taliban in the northwestern side of the country through drone strikes, resulting in many civilian casualties, which have angered many Pakistanis. In 2007, a report was presented that put Pakistan in the crosshairs of using aid money by the US to build up defense against India. a fact which was admitted by President Musharraf in 2009. The confidence and faith in each other has been absent since the war on terror commenced, as the US has been mistrustful of Pakistan army and accused it of tipping off Taliban and pro-Taliban factions on US proceedings. The Kerry-Lugar bill showed United States distrust in Pakistan military command and approved aid on the condition that would be used for non-military purposes, a sum of $7.5 billion. In May of 2011, Osama bin Laden was terminated in an operation managed by the US Navy SEALs in Abbottabad, Pakistan. President Barack Obama declared that Pakistan Army was not privy to the knowledge regarding the operation. However, ISI maintained that the operation was a joint venture, a claim which was rebutted by President Asif Ali Zardari. Alongside this, in 2011, an airstrike killed 24 Pakistani soldiers, due to which Pakistan ordered US Army to clear Salala airbase. Moreover, the government stopped NATO supplies to the US. In Donald Trump's America First environment, there is a growing Washington agreement of a view against China, Russia, and the Muslim world, including complacent allies that is Pakistan. The US has been unwilling to address Pakistan's collaboration on Afghanistan and continue to take on disciplinary actions against it. If the US vacates Afghanistan without a political agreement, it may feel obligated to take further steps against Pakistan. After America's exit, Pakistan's leverage based upon geographical position will be diminished. Islamabad needs to work out the structure of its ensuing ties with the US in conjunction with the orchestration of US troops withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now coming along to relations between Pakistan and Russia. First, on May 25, 2002, Russia sponsored a peace conference in which it invited India and Pakistan to attend. Pakistan accepted whilst India rejected. Russia blamed Pakistan. This altercation defines the relationship between Pakistan and the USSR. Ties began in the Cold War where not only tactical but philosophical divisions had breadth. A segment of the literati have criticized Liaquat Ali Khan for strained relations with the USSR, perpetuating that he was invited to Moscow only to use the invitation for drumming up an invitation from the US. There is no authentic recorded basis to this story. Hassan Zahir and Mansoor Alam, who have seen this Pakistani and Russian records respectively, are among those writers who seek to dismantle this myth. On 7th May 1960, a U-2 American espionage aircraft was shot down over USSR territory. It had taken off from Badabar near Peshawar, for which the Soviet Prime Minister directly threatened Pakistan with repercussions. In 1965, Ayub Khan made a formal visit to USSR to establish a consensus on commerce and oil exploration. In 1971, the Soviet Union entered a pact with India of peace and cooperation, ensuring Soviet support if Pakistan and India ever went to war. In 1972, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto met with Soviets and they agreed to build a steel mill in Pakistan. Because Pakistan was helping the US against Soviet expansion in 1979, relations deteriorated. During 1998, Soviets pulled out their troops from Afghanistan, but belligerent atmosphere was retained between Pakistan and USSR. In 1991, various states gained independence from USSR and returned into the Federation of Russia. After the collapse of Nawaz's government, Benazir Bhutto became the prime minister from 1994 to 1995. She tried to mend relations with Russia, however, to no avail due to Pakistan's support of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. Russian Prime Minister Putin met Pakistan President Musharraf at the UN in 2000, but no improvement in relations. On 3rd January 2005, the Pakistani ambassador to Russia announced that economic ties between the two countries would be enhanced. The Russian ambassador made no similar statement. A ripple was created in the uneventful relations between Pakistan and Russia when Prime Minister Mikhail E. Fredkov arrived on 11th April 2007 in Islamabad. Shaukat Aziz said that both sides had agreed to promote trade ties using Iran as a corridor for this purpose. Delegation members accompanying the Russian premier offered Pakistan high-speed locomotives and train coaches. In 2011, Pakistan and Russia ties grew better as Russia was in favor of Pakistan joining SCO as a full member and positively received the idea of expansion of Karachi Steel Mill. In 2015, Russia invited Pakistan to participate in the 4th Moscow International Security Conference and carried out a deal to sell Pakistan MIL Mi-35 Hind helicopters. Ties with Pakistan carry exceptional importance for Russia due to its geographical position and bearings, including Pakistan's sway in southwestern Asia, especially the Muslim world. Talks were held by the Federal Drug Control Service of Russia for developing an alliance with Pakistan to combat drug trafficking and terrorism. Pakistan has the opportunity of becoming a significant ally because of its profound experience in the war on terror and enhanced handling post NATO Afghanistan. Coming along to Pakistan and the United Kingdom. Pakistan came into being when it gained independence from Britain. It was settled more than a year before independence that Pakistan, in the circumstance of its formation, would not be given the Muslim majority area of Gurdaspur. H.C. Beaumont later disclosed that further award of Firozpur and Zira was made to India by Sir Cyril Ratcliffe. Thus, all drawbacks with which Pakistan was born were due to British malfeasance. Nowadays, Pakistan and the United Kingdom have a common goal in continuation of a world order based on the requisite of law rather than might. UK's diplomatic operation in Pakistan is the second largest in the world. Alongside this, in excess of 2% of UK's inhabitants can track its roots back to Pakistan. British Pakistanis have an immense contribution to the societal, economic, educational, ethic, and governmental section of the country, with 12 members of the House of Commons of Pakistani inception acting as a connecting rope between Pakistan and the UK. Furthermore, both Pakistan and the UK are part of the Commonwealth of Nations and the United Nations. In the post Brexit waters, the UK and Pakistan can take advantage of each other's economic triumph. The UK is Pakistan's colossal commerce companion in Europe and third biggest investment investor globally. Pakistan needs to labor to ensure that post-Brexit, it resumes having market access to the UK along the field of current GSP positive states. Moreover, Pakistan is required to upgrade its trade relation complementary with UK so it can fulfill UK's import demands. Reinforcing trade and economic connections with the United Kingdom should be the main priority of Pakistan's foreign policy, as this bankable designation can help raise national exports to the necessary level. Now, Pakistan and China. The People's Republic of China came into being in 1949. No ideological restriction struck Pakistan's association with Communist China as it had with Communist Russia. Pakistan was among the primary countries to accept China. Consular relations had been established by 1951. The Pakistan Authority had a difficult time with Chiang Kai-shek and was more cordial to the rule headed by Mao Zedong. China was not in favor of Pakistan joining SEATO or CENTO, yet there was no bad blood. At the emergence of the Sino-Indian conflict in 1959, President Ayub made the ill-advised offer to India of a joint defense against China, which the Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru declined. At this juncture, Muhammad Ali Bogra was able to rescind Ayub's recklessness and cement ties with China. On 2nd March 1963, the Sino-Pakistan border was fixed, and later accords on business deal and more notably direct air communications were signed. As it happens, before the 1971 war, Pakistan enthusiastically backed China's endeavor to regain its seat in the UN and was against the American Two Chinas formula. Pakistan tallied its vote for the draft resolution, which made China a member of the UNSC and got Taiwan removed from the UN. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto viewed Sino-American relations as an essential element in synthesizing Pakistan's orientation in Asia. He visited China in 1972, May 1974, and May 1976. China became one of the chief suppliers of military equipment to China, to Pakistan. This carried on in spite of the death of Zhou Enlai and Mao Zedong in 1976, and the capital punishment sentence carried out to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in 1979. During the 1980s to 90s, relations between Pakistan and China remained solid and cordial. In November 1989, China pledged to aid Pakistan in the growth of its nuclear energy projects, as well as providing technological hardware for a nuclear plant. In 1990, Pakistan launched a satellite from Chinese soil. On 19 June 2003, when India shut off Pakistan's membership to the Association of Southeast Asia Nations (ASEAN), China firmly supported Pakistan. On 22nd October 2003, China and Pakistan held joint naval exercises. In 2006, Pakistan signed a free trade agreement with China. In 2010, China bestowed a flood-stricken Pakistan $260 million. Dollars. In 2013, China declared $6.5 billion for the establishment of a nuclear power plant in Karachi. On 8th of December 2014, Pakistan and China signed 19 agreements concerning $42 billion relating Pakistan and China economic corridor. The following Pakistani projects have been shouldered with Chinese help: the Karakoram Highway, the heavy mechanical complex at Taxila, the heavy electrical complex at Port Najibullah, the thermal power station at Gurdu, the Sandek metallurgy project, and the ongoing development of Gwadar Port, and a jointly developed a fighter aircraft, the JF-17. In conclusion, the value of Pakistan is a function of its area, citizens, and geographical position. The success of its foreign policy is the ramification of how it utilizes these assets. Pakistan's inhabitants exceed 200 million, which makes it a noteworthy country. The possibilities of Pakistan are limitless and it is rich in its potential. Thank you.